Hey, thank you for joining us this morning. Our gospel reading today has us in Luke chapter 17 to 19. And in that last chapter is a story that my guess is most of us may be familiar with. So we're going to take a look at it. Luke chapter 19, verses 1 to 10. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through, and a man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. Now, he was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He was a man of authority. He was the man in charge. He was the chief tax collector in Jericho. Listen, Zacchaeus was a Jew, but to the Jews around him, he had committed the worst sin that any Jew could commit in that day. He had collaborated with the Romans, who the Jews hated because the Romans had conquered and occupied Israel. And as chief tax collector, that meant that Zacchaeus had other tax collectors working for him. And tax collectors pretty much did whatever they wanted in that day. As long as they charged enough to pay what Rome demanded, they could overcharge as much as they liked. And they did. So Zacchaeus was a rich guy. He was successful. He was a man of authority. And he was despised. The Jews put robbers and murderers and tax collectors in the same class. Now, the word on the street was that Jesus cared about everybody. He wasn't just the friend of the righteous. He was actually a friend of sinners. People said that he cared about lepers and prostitutes, demon-possessed people, Gentiles, women, everybody. And so Zacchaeus went because he had to know if a guy like that could care about a guy like him. And if it wasn't true, well, at least he'd know. So he went. And when he couldn't see because he was a short guy, he climbed up a tree. He wanted to see who Jesus was. And the crowd didn't like him. And so he kind of ran ahead to this sycamore-fig tree to climb up and see Jesus, since Jesus was coming that way. And it wasn't long before Zacchaeus heard the buzz of the crowd. I don't know if you can imagine this or not. People were whispering, people were pointing fingers, they were standing on their tiptoes to see. And when Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I'm gonna stay at your house today." And so Zacchaeus came down at once and welcomed Jesus gladly. And all of the people saw this and they muttered the same thing that you and I may have muttered if we'd been there that day. He's gone to be the guest of a sinner. Does he not know who Zacchaeus is? You know, this may be one of the most known stories in the Gospels. We sing children's songs about him. And we read stories like this and we don't think much about it because we kind of become familiar with it. But how many adults do you know that still climb trees? I guess it's not too many. How much more unusual would it be for a wealthy businessman to climb a tree or a wealthy businesswoman to climb a tree? Listen, Zacchaeus had a reputation to protect. He had this image to uphold. But this distinguished tax collector climbs a tree like a little kid. It's interesting, he didn't seem to care about decorum. He didn't seem to care about protocol. He didn't seem to care how foolish he looked. He just wanted to get a glimpse of Jesus. But I want you to notice what I think is most often looked in this story, especially if you're still trying to figure out if someone like Jesus could love someone like you. Zacchaeus risked looking foolish just to see if this Jesus was the real deal. But I also want to say this for those of us who already follow Jesus. How much more should we be willing to look foolish to those around us, especially if they don't know that someone like Jesus could love someone like them? Well, let me ask it another way. What kind of person does Jesus call us to be? That if your neighbors saw you living it out, you might be a little embarrassed. You know, the way he calls us to live as husbands or wives, or as parents, or as children, or with your time, or what he calls you to do with your abilities, or your money, or how you treat your enemies, or how you speak about people with differing political views. Well, that may be a little too close to home this time of year. Or how you treat that student or coworker that everybody else seems to ignore, or worse, right? And the list goes on and on. Here's the thing. If you've already read this story today, you know the difference Jesus can make in the life of a person nobody in Zacchaeus' world thought would be changed by Jesus. And spoiler alert, if you have not read this yet, the story ends in verse 10 this way. Jesus said to him, Zacchaeus, that is, today salvation has come to this house. Man, what would happen if Jesus' followers were willing to do what we're afraid would make us look foolish because we're following Jesus for the sake of someone who is wondering if someone like Jesus could actually love someone like them? I'm going to close our time with this Franciscan benediction. May God bless you with discomforted easy answers and half-truths and superficial relationships so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice and oppression and exploitation of people so that you may work for justice and freedom and peace. And may God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer pain and rejection and hunger and war, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and to turn their pain into joy. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in the world, so that you can do what others claim cannot be done to bring justice and kindness to all of our children and the poor. Amen. Because someone in your world is wondering if someone like Jesus could love someone like them. And they're watching you to see if it's true. Man, I hope you have a great day.